Good day, my fellow nerds, and welcome back to the corner of Remnant. I'm your host, Larissa, and I'm joined by Emperial Dawn.
Yo!
And today we are discussing RWBY Beyond. And I just noticed this thing is... Just one moment, sorry. I was fiddling with something before. There we go. Reach! Hi, Reach! How are you?
Hi!
How are you? Yeah. So yes, we're discussing the RWBY Beyond episodes today.
Yes.
Hi. Which you can watch right now on Rooster Teeth. I definitely recommend go watch them now while you can, because they're not going to be available anywhere else once the site is closed.
Yeah.
Which it's sad, but yeah, so it will definitely vanish. Also the same with Volume 9, except it's on Crunchyroll, but yeah, if you... I'm not sure... Volume 8's not on YouTube either, so...
Well, I mean, as far as I'm aware, I believe the only place you'll be able to watch is Crunchyroll, period, because I don't think any of RWBY is
I think that, they used to have
anymore.
them. They used to have the original, like the first few seasons, but...
I think you can watch the 4 trailers and episode 1 on YouTube. I think that might be about it.
Yeah.
In terms of that's on official sources, obviously. Like, I assume a lot of the community will archive a lot of this stuff improperly until we get further notice on what's going on. Hopefully sometime within the next few weeks. Maybe given our last kind of tease of possible news coming at some point soon. But until then, we have RWBY Beyond, and that, as far as we know right now, might be the last of it. So we're here today to kind of just, enjoy this little retrospective, this little last little bit, these little 4 little episodes we got.
Yeah.
And just, enjoy RWBY until whatever comes next.
Yes. It may be the last content we get for a while, sadly. But overall, I really enjoyed these 4 episodes. And so grateful that the team were able to just put them together for us right before shutdown. And I believe Kerry wrote all of these, I think. And Eddie as well helped.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very small team. It was a very small team of pretty much, Aaron doing most of the artwork for it. Kerry writing them and Eddie kind of helping putting them together. And like Kerry, I believe, edited them himself, I believe, to a degree. And obviously they sampled a lot of Volume 9 music that had already been done from Volume 9 and stuff. So again, it was very much just like, we got till May 15th or whenever the final day is, and let's just, if we're going to come to work, then let's just, what small team we have left, let's just do something. This is what we got, and it's reminiscent of like the world of Remnants.
Yes.
We used to get back in the day, and I love when you have a world and you have a story to where you can do something so minimalistic here, and yet it feels so cool. Like I almost wish we had these throughout the entire series, just these little kind of like little chunks of just little lore drops, bit of information, not that important kind of thing. Would be really cool. And we got that through elements of like RWBY Chibi elements, and we got remnants from like I said, World of Remnant. It is so funny because I remember thinking recently, if you just watch the main series and stuff, a lot of people will tell you things like, oh, Blake and Ruby didn't have too much, on-screen stuff until this and that, this and that, this and that. And then I kind of realized over the years why I didn't agree with all this stuff, because I think RWBY Chibi really, really elevated.
It did,
that kind of stuff. And a lot of the fans, especially if you didn't watch RWBY Chibi at the time when it was coming out, it's not something you're going to go watch back, unless you complete the whole series and you just want your more feel.
Yeah.
But it is, as though RWBY Chibi was obviously not really canon, for those 3 seasons it really did actually help get more personality out of the characters and stuff, whether that's canon or not kind of thing. And that's what I really liked about this as well, was just this small little bit of information stuff. Obviously newer stuff, since it's most of it's past Volume 9.
Yes.
Especially as well. So I really like how these supplemental things can really, really add to the show, especially.
They really do.
Like RWBY Chibi and what Remnant did back in the day, this feels a similar goal.
And I guess like there's also the Justice League movies, which are kind of canon, but not like they're kind of like an alternate sort of universe
Yeah.
sort of thing. But they also add extra because I've seen there's a lot of things with John and Apira and things like that in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had a few different sort of spin-offs over the years which just add extra to the series. I believe they did originally plan to do RWBY Beyond before the shutdown, because I remember they did do the announcement. But of course, with the shutdown, they could only do so much, so they at least managed to get these 4 episodes for us. So
yes, I believe there was even meant to be more than this initially,
most
but
likely.
the shutdown came down, I think, about a week after.
Yeah.
The announcement of these plans. Obviously, they'd been in the work.
Yeah.
For a while and stuff, but
Yes.
Yeah. But we were meant to get 4 weeks, but they ended up putting the last 2 together. Why drag it out? I suppose in their mind. So we got all 4 now, and that seems to be it until this is the last Rooster Teeth RWBY content.
Yes.
Period.
That's true. Yes, definitely.
We'll have to see where it goes before.
Yeah.
Other than that, I apologize, by the way, if there's anything. I have a cat sitting on my lap that is eating everything he can get his hands on. So I apologize. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so if I sound bad, I apologize. But I have these like drawstrings on my jumper, and the cat is having a time of his life.
Yes.
So I apologize.
I did have Ellie in the room, but she's been evicted, so. Well, let's get into discussing. Let's go over the first episode, which of course was the Juno Detectives, and I was so happy to see them back. But I really loved the art style that it did with these 2, because I'm so used to seeing them, in the chibis, and then seeing them as they were with. It just looked really cool. I just really liked it.
Aaron did an incredible job. If you ever looked at the concept art and stuff, it's that style. It's a bit more like polish and kind of grit to it that kind of match the texture of the vibe they're going for.
Yeah.
And some of these characters, some of the stuff I loved seeing. And the cool thing with something like this compared to like 3D models, you can have more fun in terms of like Neptune wearing Rand's armband or wearing Nora's outfit or Crow's vest. Like you can have more fun with that kind of stuff. Great art inspiration, that kind of stuff too.
Yes.
Which I love seeing. I love seeing little bits and pieces like that. Sure. It was really fun. I've really enjoyed these first 2 episodes a lot. I enjoyed the last 2 as well, but I think these 2 especially, game it was really fun. Again,
it was good.
The Junior Detectives being a thing that was like,
it was in
in the main show, but it was more of a RWBY chibi thing.
It was a chibi thing. Yeah, definitely. And one thing I noticed too was when we see the files where it's like Team RWBY ? And then it's got a photo of the girls. I'm pretty sure that's the same photo. I was meant to go back and double check, but from the end of
it's the end of volume 4.
Volume 4 with
Ty. It's the one that it's the one that RWBY sends to Ty.
Yes.
Or RWBY gives to Ty. Yeah, before
at
she
some
leaves
point.
Or whatever.
Yeah, because I noticed that was the same photo, which I thought was really cute. So.
1 second, guys. I'll be back in a second.
Well, I will just keep talking about the episode while Dawn's fixing that up. I really also liked how Carrie was Neptune was pretending to be the other Rand and Nora and Crow, and I thought that was really cool. I thought he did that really well. And impersonating the very well as well is really cool. I'm pretty sure Carrie would have had a lot of fun with that.
I was gonna say, especially that it's Carrie to impersonate his own, is kind of like his own characters in a sense.
Yes.
I imagine was very fun, and obviously like these episodes are going to mainly focus on like some of the more in-house talent. Because they don't have a lot of funds or resources to kind of get it out to some of the other talent and stuff. But obviously using like Michael and Carrie, and then in episode 2 using
Miles
and but then we're still able to bring in Aaron as Oscar, and being able to bring I don't remember the voice actress somewhat. I apologize. In episode 3, but they're still being able to reach out and still get some outside RT help to the little love letter to the final thing. And speaking of which, I know she wasn't super relevant in the series, but I love the detail that Elizabeth Maxwell was there at the. I believe it was I don't remember if it was the RT stream or the RWBY stream or whatever, but I did see she was there at one of the streams.
Yes, I did see that.
And that's really cool because she's not, Elizabeth Maxwell is not a part. Yes, she's in RWBY. Yes, she's in Camp, and she's always been down to come hang out with RT stuff. But that was just really cool. Something like that she has no needed affiliation with it.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember it was one of the things when they got Elizabeth Maxwell. Um, you know, not referring to Crow when he came into the show, but if
Yes.
discounting Crow, Elizabeth Maxwell was the first, like, I'd say the first major name to come into
Yeah.
the show
Yeah. Yeah.
at the time, to
Yes.
really give the sense of significance to the show, um, and stuff as well. Which I know, I believe there's some conjecture, because I want to say Winter's original voice actress was meant to be Monty's
Mm.
wife, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And then something happened there. Again, Volume 3 was a
Yeah.
rough,
It
a
was a
rough
rough
time.
time.
There's a lot of like innuendo and allegations and stuff around Volume 3 and production and stuff. Obviously,
Yeah.
just after Monty's death.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Elizabeth Maxwell's love for RWBY especially and RT is really, I think, I really appreciate, because it's not something she needs to do.
Yes.
But she did that, and I thought that was really cool. And also, we saw a bit of Winter in the Junior Detective episode.
Yes.
As well.
We
And the good thing is, I feel like every one of these did have some level of tease or hint. Like they're all peppered with a little bit of something.
And they also
Yeah.
had a lot of like references from the early series, like the we see the guys with the people like grapes cans.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a Volume 1 reference, and also sort of a reference to like a non-RWBY but a Rooster Teeth thing.
Yeah, it's an old Rooster Teeth thing of people like grapes and dogs hate grapes.
Yes.
Then that in Volume 2 that translated into people like soda.
Yes.
Stuff, which
Yeah.
that was a cool callback.
That was cool.
And again, when you have things like some of the early, now that we're in Volume 9, we have all these old characters coming back. We can kind of really easily reference old things like that.
Yep, they had the lockers as well, which
fun.
we haven't seen in so long.
Yeah, that's in Vacuo as well, because
Yeah.
that was a neat little thing. But it makes sense because Vacuo is such a hodgepodge of like different cultures and technologies and stuff. It's very much the Australia. We always called Menagerie Australia.
Yes.
Like Vacuo being a hodgepodge of different cultures and stuff also kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, definitely.
For Australia as well.
And I really loved the scene that we saw where you got Theodore for the first time, actually seeing him there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got Winter, Raven, Oscar, and then Mystery Woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Theodore, obviously only ever kind of getting him from the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, love the design. Absolutely no problem with the design. Definitely wasn't what I interpreted when I read the book.
No, same. Yeah, I definitely had him, like, my mind's eye looking a bit different, but...
I always imagine him to be more like a Gira type.
Yeah.
Like a big hulking individual.
Yes.
Not more like this kind of more Crow-esque style and swag to him.
Yes. He's very sexy.
But, yeah, no. Awesome design. Great to see it. And again, it's no different than concept art, because it's Aaron designing them, and it looks pretty much one for one for what it would look like in the show, just 2D rather than 3D. And I'm really interested to discuss. I mean, obviously there's the note of the fact that Sun and Neptune are aware of who Winter and Raven are, and then the maidens and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious if that at this point is just like everyone knows everything. It's like the world, like, you know, everyone in Vacuo just knows everything. There's no point in hiding things. Everyone just knows. Maidens exist, relics exist, Salem exists. Screw it. Or if it's something that Sun and Neptune have actually been keyed into, since they're significant hero figures within the Vacuo community during the events of the books.
I think it's a bit hard to hide it too now with Winter, especially because she's very obviously being the maiden flying around, and all the Atlas people will be able to say as well.
But the Raven bits, I think, is
Raven,
interesting.
yes, unless they're just being open about it that Raven's the other maiden, and
But even too, because Raven Bronwyn, maybe not in Vacuo, but is a known, Bandit is a known, is a public figure that's not exactly a well-regarded public figure. The Bronwyn tribe and Raven Bronwyn is a known, a known individual. I can't think of the right term off the top of my head. But so I thought that was definitely an interesting detail. If that was maybe just like an oversight, or that was just like maybe a clue into the current situation. Obviously, it's a very desperate situation. So, like you said, everyone could just know everything, which would be completely fair. But interesting of Sun and Neptune. And again, they are the detectives, so maybe they just figured it out, since they're not trying to hide it as much as they would.
Yeah.
They put it together. But
Mystery Woman is so Neptune do say that they'll sort of can't be the Summer Maiden, but who else could it be? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I think so. My 2 cents. My thoughts. That the fact that Sun defended it so adamantly
Yes.
makes me think that, one, it is the Summer Maiden,
Yeah, well.
and two, that it's Star,
Yep.
who is Sun's cousin
Right.
from the books,
Right.
I believe.
Yeah.
Sun Starzang, or Starzang, Sunzang. I
I
can't quite remember
recall
the name
either.
off the top of my head. But the fact that Sun was so adamant about it, and
Yeah.
he kind of butted in, makes me think that it is Star, and he's just keeping it to himself. Which would be interesting if Sun was familiar with the Maiden concept.
Yeah.
Assuming that Star was... I'm going to say Star. If Star's not her first name, I believe it's Star.
Yeah,
I believe it's Star
can't
Sunzang,
remember.
but I apologise.
Yes.
But if it is Star, and has been a Maiden for a long time, how interesting would it be that Sun knew about the Maiden stuff, even as far as Volume 2, but since he had no real plot relevance to the main story, Emperial and that kind of stuff, there was never... And because he was in Menagerie and stuff, which didn't have any of the Maiden connections in the show,
No.
that he's aware of it all, but because he's never connected with any Maiden in the show, it's never actually been brought up.
Yeah, maybe.
So I thought that'd be interesting.
Well, it's definitely, it's definitely a woman, but got very feminine features, so,
I
so
mean,
who?
yeah. It also could have been just very, like, on the nose, because the fact that, it's like, we don't have time to introduce new characters, so it doesn't matter who this person is.
This is a new character that was going to be in Volume 10, but we're just going to tease you with it.
Yeah, so it could just be a meta thing where it's like, hey, we're not going to tell you, so don't bother asking, because we don't have the time or money or budget to tell you who it is.
Yes.
Because they even said, like, we're not gonna, it's too late to introduce new characters. They even said that.
Yeah.
But either it's, it was a meta joke, or I think it's Star. I think that'd be interesting. Just in terms of, like, what female vacuum characters do we already know? I mean, obviously there's a lot from the books, but Star was probably one of the only characters that was a bit older and a bit more mysterious, and was a bit more, like, because I believe we only met Star in... I think it was mostly in flashbacks, and at the very end of the book,
I don't recall it at all.
We do. I think that's what it is. I think in the first book it's just flashbacks to when Sun was a kid.
Yeah.
Which I believe references a tree and might have some connection to relics, ideas, or something like that. There's something about the Sun teas in the first book, and then in the second book, at the very end, I believe Sun and Star meet up again for the first time.
Right.
It's similarly to how Blake had to go meet her parents. I think there was a similar dynamic with Sun having to go meet his cousin. And then I think they go meet her at a dojo that she runs, and that's when it ends with, like, a black cloud is coming, and the idea is that that's Salem, or Salem just like Atlas or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to that, and obviously if you aren't familiar with the books, there's a lot of stuff from the books.
Yeah, there is. It's been a few years since I've read them now. So yes.
But it was a very cute first episode. Obviously, I love the kind of the junior detective stuff, so like the idea is like
humor there, but there was also some serious stuff in there too. So
the whole time like they're explaining the whole situation to Crow.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's when you showed up, and then just throws him out. So it's like, how did you get here? And then just throws him away, and then
so funny.
And that's pretty much it for the first one.
The second episode, A Knight's Journal. So this was mainly focused on John and his perspective now that he's in Vacuo and back in his younger self. And I thought this was really good too, and had some really nice moments in there, and we got to see a little bit of the Ever After, but when John was there with Alex and Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Yes.
I love the idea too that this episode kind of implies the fact that kind of does, at least, that, like, John's, was himself, got older and became young again.
Yeah.
It does seem that he kind of isn't, like, he doesn't have his same, like, he kind of has his mind, he's kind of back to, like, he has his memories of experiences, but I feel like he's not, I feel like almost mentally he's back to where he was.
I don't know.
Memories of experience, just the way he said that he went back to being young again. I don't know, just when I said that, it was a bit more like, even in a bit more of a mental sense, like, he still has his memories, but he's still, like...
To me, it's more like he's an older person, but in a young person's body, very similar to how Osborn being in Oscar's body.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of how I sort of saw it, and that's why,
Okay. I mean,
I don't know.
That obviously makes the more logical sense, which...
And he just feels a bit off because he's now had all that experience, that all those years in the Ever After. He's just not the same person he was when he fell originally.
That's true. I mean, that makes more sense.
That's
to be fair.
My sort of view on it. Yeah.
But I do really love one, I love the idea that Nora is going around to kind of try telling everyone everything, and no one
It's the
believes
rest
him.
of the night.
Which that was very cute, and I love him going to Oscar. That was such a really cool little
Yeah.
thing when I saw that. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
And I like
Um,
how Oscar was like, oh, you know, the fairy tales, there's a few fairy tales of me. And John's like, you mean Osborne? He goes, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, well,
They
and
haven't
again,
merged yet, but
yeah,
yeah.
Oscar's gone through a lot, and John hasn't been here for it as well. So,
Yes.
he still very much, thinks of Oscar, as the kid, when obviously there's a bit more going on. I
Yeah.
love the voice change Aaron does, like going back to more like very Osborne-esque, but then once he gets interrupted, he goes right, Oscar, right.
Yes.
That was very that was a very cute little thing,
Yeah.
and again, I know everyone said it a million times, but man, Miles is such a good voice actor and has gotten so much better over the years. This episode especially, even the way he was interrupting Oscar, I think the once or twice it happened, where it was just very like. It was almost very loud. It was almost very like stern in his delivery in those scenes. It comes off very, really well. The whole thing was just really good, and like obvious. And then
the emotion in his voice as well, I thought was really good when he was talking about everything that happened with Alex and Lewis, and I love the little shot they see at the end where Pyrrha's there as well.
Yeah,
it's so cute.
Yeah, but even getting more ideas into the ever after as well of like, obviously Oscar telling him to focus on the good times, and obviously John's like, really, and it's like not like that, but just
the good moments.
Well, not even that. It was just more like it was just more like look at everything that happened, and don't think of the positives, but just try to have the positive perspective.
Yeah.
In the sense of was it worth it to you? Not so much whether the moment's good, but like was the whole experience worth it in a sense? And he goes back and he obviously retells things about like the market and Splatter Day and the campfires and all that kind of stuff. And I loved the parallel between his campfire and then the spot fires in Vaco. That was such a good little segment. And again, Miles' voice acting was just incredible. It
was just so good.
Yeah, and it was interesting too. There was a mention because I just watched this episode before we went live. When and again, it can be easily interpreted both ways. But when John says that Lewis is writing the story that will one day lead my friends to me.
Yes.
And it didn't. Was it in this? I guess was it in this episode that John mentioned that Lewis was aware that John knew more than he was saying?
Yes.
That wasn't this. Okay,
it wasn't this. Yeah. Lewis sort of could see that there was more to it than John wasn't saying.
Yeah. So I would love the idea if that, again, in terms of like time loopy full circle kind of thing.
Yeah.
That Lewis caught on to that John knew more than he was saying.
Yeah.
And John admitted that to Lewis. So Lewis writes the story intentionally with the intent of Team RWBY reading in his kids, so that way they'll end up finding John when it gets to and even there's even deeper level to the story. Like the story was literally done so that John, the Rusted Knight's friends would come find him eventually.
Yes.
Not just as a tribute to Alex, but also to help John's friends come find him one day. Is like I never thought of that until then. That could actually be an intention of writing the book was to save John.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Again, if you put the elements, it wasn't explicitly referenced that was the case, but if you put those two elements together from the episode, I feel like that could be interpreted. So it's a really interesting level to it. And like you said, the campfire with seeing the Volume 1 team.
Yeah.
And again, I love why Oscar's one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah.
And why I think John and Oscar share so much parallels. I believe Miles did a cameo recently. Not recently, but a while back, where he was discussing the idea that was John a candidate for Ozpin?
Yes, yeah.
And
I've heard of that before.
And he didn't necessarily say he was. I think it was just more like I think there wasn't any, at least from a writing perspective, there wasn't any intention for John to become Ozpin.
No.
As many of us have theorized over the years before they kind of introduced Oscar. But just seeing those two characters here in this kind of moment, both having lived through similar experiences in terms of age and lifetimes and all that kind of stuff, and for Oscar then to just say at the end of the day, in those good moments, in those perspectives, did it matter whether or not
exactly.
you're
That
going
you
to
would
make
win.
it through.
Yeah, would it really
And
matter? Yeah.
no,
No.
it didn't. Granted, in the Ever After, it's a bit harsher because you think, well, I never thought I was going to leave this place. I was stuck here, so
Yeah, yeah.
Remnant didn't matter when I was in the Ever After. But the implications, regardless,
Yes.
doesn't matter
yes.
whether or not this fight will be won, whether you're in the world or ever going to escape or not.
Mm.
But yeah, that was just good stuff. Loved it.
Yeah,
So good.
it was really good. And then we get the third episode, which I was so excited because it has somewhat in it. But I thought it was really cool in this because, again, we get to see Somewhat and Juniper. But Somewhat revisits those places from Volume 9 after, of course, everyone's left. And I thought that was really nice, too, to see the place again. And for Somewhat, these were new experiences for her because... has no memory of that time with RWBY and the others, which is kind of sad, but that's just how the Ever After works.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. It's interesting too because when we got to the Ever After, it was like we've only the Ever After, as far as the viewers are concerned, has only ever existed in the two states of like Lewis's story, and Team RWBY's story, which was just for a while, it was the exact same story, but then we obviously learned that it was like, well, yes, but things are like there's a cycle to this world that keeps kind of repeating on itself, that everyone has their purpose, and it's just a big cycle that goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So here's the first time we get like the third iteration of that cycle that's different.
Yes.
I apologize, my cat's scratching on my door. Give me 1 second.
It's all good. And so Somewhat is being sort of gone to do what they feel is right and help the Afterends. And to me, it's almost similar to the cat's role, but different in that aspect. And helping Afterends so they don't have to go back to the tree as well, which I think is really cool. And I just thought, and how RWBY, of course, was reading this like it was like a children's story, and which I thought was really sweet. And I love when we got to see the genial gems. We got to go to the marketplace, and the marketplace especially. Someone's like, "Oh, something bad happened here," and of course we, had what they're called, the
Jabberwockers.
Jabberwockers who attacked the market.
Which is interesting because, well, actually it's not, because again the whole Jabberwocker Neo thing. So so this does imply that Neo's Jabberwockers don't have the same ability as regular Jabberwockers, because we saw the bird back.
Yes, and they didn't look different as such.
They looked younger. Younger. They were an old bird when the cat convinced them to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
So it does nicely wrap up that little tidbit. We didn't it never was really clear how powerful the Jabberwockers were, but this does imply that the Jabberwockers would simply, Neo's ones would simply kill the Ever Afterends, but because they weren't the real Jabberwocker, they would go back to the blacksmith and then be remade. So
they're back. They're not just gone. Which was good. Good to see.
Which is good, and just kind of wrapped up that little kind of confusing little thing. So, but I'm now curious, wonder if the original Jabberwocker does still exist to some degree.
Yes.
I assume the cat and the Jabberwocker can't ascend because they just were made before that cycle. Well, I guess no. Well, it was implied that the cat couldn't be repaired because the cat is what sends people back to the Ever After.
Yes. Yeah.
So it can't send itself back.
No. Yeah, it couldn't send itself back to the tree.
And I guess the Jabberwocker probably can't. Yeah, I don't know. The Ever After is such a weird, which is cool. Which is why it was so cool to get this thing back into the Ever After. It'd be cool if
we might have got an extra, a little mini series of this. I thought would have been really cute.
Yeah. I'm curious if we get a spin-off of the Ever After. Just if all goes well in the future.
It would be cool if they did a little children's book of Somewhat's adventures. I think that would be really cute.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few fan-made things like that already, and it's very good.
Somewhat gets the package from Herb. So after it needs to return to the tree, basically, which is the Red Prince.
Yeah.
They, after Somewhat play their game and talking with them, it seemed to appear that they helped the Red Prince, and the Red Prince wasn't going to return to the tree, which I thought was really, really cool.
Well, see, it's interesting because I feel like, again, when I saw that interpretation, my interpretation wasn't that he didn't return to the tree
Yeah.
is that he did, and he took the leaves, and then you just see the package drop.
I don't know, because the package drops and he's just standing there, and the package doesn't look like it was opened. So my interpretation was that he just dropped the package because he didn't need it. But
okay,
yeah,
the idea that somewhat convinced him that he didn't need to return.
He didn't
to the
actually
tree.
need to return to the tree. Yeah. Because they
Interesting.
dropped the package and it wasn't opened. It's still sealed. It's got the seal on the front of it. Still. So it's not opened.
I guess so.
Yeah. And they're waving to somewhat as they drop it. Yeah. Well, that was just my interpretation, was that somewhat helped them.
I guess it's like it's an art style thing. Maybe it's a bit,
Yeah. They didn't need to return to the tree at the end of the day. Yeah. And then at the end of the episode, of course, we got the world where we saw the Jabberwockers and the portal appears. And now it's just like, who's in this portal? And I know some people thought Neo, but we need to remember too that someone would have no recollection of Neo. Not that they really met them properly anyway, before Neo stomped them to death. And they wouldn't have seen Neo after they ascended, because Neo had already returned to the tree at that point. So it can't be Neo exactly.
Well, I disagree, because time in this world doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, it's true.
Two, there's a chance that Neo somewhat returned. We saw somewhat after Neo, so it's possible they're both in the tree. They could have met in the tree.
Possibly.
Like we saw RWBY still had a form. She still had a sense and mind in the tree.
Yeah.
And she did see other souls, granted not actual manifestations, but to me it's not impossible that somewhat and Neo could have met in the tree.
Possibly, though. I don't think they would have that recollection, though RWBY does. I don't know.
But again,
it's a bit different.
And again, obviously it's different between afterruns and not. But again, it seemed the blacksmith seemed to imply very much that it was a bit more up to your own It was up to your. It was your choice.
Yeah.
And I think in the Ever After for the afterruns, it makes the most sense to kind of learn from your past, let it go, and then become something new.
Yeah.
But because of Little's experiences with. But I guess I didn't remember RWBY, so but did remember RWBY to a degree. Like,
and they said goodbye to
remembers.
them. Yeah, and they said goodbye to them after they went into the portal.
I guess for me, I don't. Not that I don't like the idea of RWBY returning to the Ever After at some point.
Yeah.
Again, it's just how one returns to the Ever After is just annoying.
Well,
because we don't know how Alex got to the tree.
Yeah.
And I guess you could. We don't have the staff.
I saw.
But again, in order for RWBY to return, you'd have to assume that means that they'd have to get the staff back, which is annoying because that just implies that obviously Team RWBY is going to win eventually. That the show would be really dark if RWBY didn't win eventually.
Yes.
But again, it's one of those things. It's the timeline things where if RWBY does return, that means she has to have beaten Salem in the future and then come to the Ever After. Which again, timeline, that's fine. Time works weird.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. Like, I don't like it being RWBY because that just kind of. Tells you too much of RWBY having to win, which obviously RWBY's going to win, but like it's just I don't like that either.
Yeah,
so there isn't a perfect answer.
Yeah,
and from the information we know,
the portal as well was very similar to the portals we saw that Ambrose made. So I think definitely it's used. They're probably using the staff or some other sort of method with the relics to get to the Ever After because they didn't fall. They came through a portal. So I don't know. It's definitely another sort of tease as to, and I had someone comment on my reaction saying that it's possible that could be RWBY from the future who returns the Ever After with like the staff or something. But
I mean that's to me that's if it is RWBY, that's the only way it makes sense for it to be RWBY.
Yeah, and
this is a post Salem RWBY with the relic.
Possibly.
Or it's a post.
Oh, they return to Ever After for some other reason. We don't know.
Yeah. There's been the idea that the relic of choice is in the Ever After, but then again, if that is the case, how do we get back to the Ever After? Again, granted, I think it's art style interpretation. Yeah. But if it is the relic of creation, getting them there, that wouldn't make sense because Salem has the relic of creation, unless we have to steal it to get the relic of choice. But again, considering the show was written, if the idea of the show probably might not continue, or at very least not under RT, why tease having to steal the relic of the relic of creation back from Salem to get the relic of choice when in the RWBY epilogue they already destroyed Vale because the show might not have much longer shelf life, so we need to wrap up the series as possible. Why have RWBY be here, which adds so much longer of a quest to get her back here? Unless it's just future RWBY after the show. So.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it could be all sorts of things, but I do like how they are sort of leaving things opened, which hopefully, yeah, that we'll get some answers for it in the future, hopefully, yeah. But that was the Adventures of Someone, and then the last episode we had was Booba, which I really liked, and it was, we always thought that we might get Lindsay and Barbara, because they're sort of available, and also good to see them in an episode with them. And I really liked this episode for a lot of different reasons. It was just nice actually getting something with RWBY and Yang together alone without the rest of the members of the team. I thought was really good. And we also sort of got to see in this as well because RWBY's kind of a celebrity now, kind of. Everyone knows who RWBY is, and her having to deal with that attention, which I thought was really nice as well, to see that. So it's good to see them in vacuo after everything that's happened.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was really good and wholesome and stuff, for sure.
And there's a lot of detail in the background. You had all the characters there too. So, being on a limited staff, they actually I thought they did quite well, having all those different people.
Oh, yeah.
And that very different looking people as well. So they're not using the same models or anything. Which I thought was really cool.
That's the advantage. It's much easier to draw a bunch of 2D characters differently than it is to render a bunch of 3D models that are different.
Yes.
So it's much easier. That's and that's the great advantage with this art style and this format. The advantages you can have, which is really cool. Yeah, I really like this episode. There were a few things I didn't like about this episode, to be honest.
Okay.
One, I thought one thing, I loved the callback to Volume 1 with the Chibi RWBY.
Yes, yeah, I like that.
That was a really cute. That was a really, really cute touch. I didn't catch it at first. I don't know if it was intentional necessarily, like if that was intentionally deliberate.
Yeah.
But I do like how RWBY, you have the Chibi in episode 2 of Volume 1. And they have the little Chibi again here.
Yes. I thought it was very cute.
I thought the Boba thing was a little silly.
But I liked how it was sort of like a throwback to their childhood, where we don't really know a lot about their childhood, really. Yeah. So I thought it was a nice throwback to that.
I guess to me, it feels very much our world.
Yeah.
It feels very much like it's like when in the soundtrack when I think there's a song that mentions Vegas.
Yes.
It's just one of those things that you have to think in like, that. I mean, obviously that was a song non-canon to the show, obviously. Yeah. But again, like I never thought Boba existed in this world, and I'm not saying it's a problem that it does. It was just for me, it was just one of the things where like
it's something from the real world and not Remnant.
It felt more like that's a real world thing than a Remnant thing, which is a dumb. And again, I'm wrong. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm just explaining how I felt.
Yes.
So I'm not saying I'm right. I'm happy to. I'm going to express myself, and then Larissa's going to correct me. I'm going to enjoy that. I thought Yang was I understand subtlety. I get that. I think for me personally, she's almost a bit too vague. Is she referring to RWBY seemingly self-harming herself?
Yes, that's definitely what she's talking about.
Is she just referring to her state of mind and her outburst? Like to me, it felt like there were too many things RWBY was going through. I know it all culminated in episode 8. I get that, and like why she felt she had to need to do what she did. But I think I don't know. On first watch, it to me felt like I feel like it was almost a little too vague to me, at least. But I also understand the need for subtlety around such a sensitive situation, so I'm not. And again, I'm just telling you how I felt, and I'm happy to be corrected.
When talking about something sensitive like this, quite often you wouldn't want to actually say outright.
Of course. Yeah, you're right. And again, you're right. I'm not saying... Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I sort of felt in this situation. I thought Barb handled it really well because rather than saying, because, you're off yourself sort of thing, she's more sort of like how Yang would say, and Yang probably wouldn't want to talk about that because it's such a painful moment, but she also still needs wants to, and that's why I believe like Yang was at the start was very like, oh, not sure, the surprise. And she was nervous, not necessarily about the boba thing. She was more nervous about the chat that
Because
she
she
was
knew
planning
what.
to
Yeah,
have
that's a
with
great point.
Ruby.
That's a really good point.
And how she
Yeah.
brings it up. The other thing, though, before they bring it up, is because they talk about Ty. And I thought that was interesting too, because with the animatic, of course, we don't see Ty there when Professor Port and Nublack return. And there's no mention of him, mention of Glinda, but no mention of Ty. And Yang brings that up here, and I thought that was really good because, thing is, of course, we don't know. Of course, the Ty might have some other. Well, I think Ruby mentioned that Crow said he has some other mission or task that he's doing, but yeah.
Yeah, this was the one thing that we discussed outside of this. Like, this thing we actually discussed a little bit before we went live, that we actually discussed the whole Ty thing a little bit over social media before this, because it's a very fascinating little bit, because, again, like, Ty's always been the mysterious, like, not the mysterious, but it's always been the oddball out. It's always been, like, as a part of Team Stark, but seems to not know anything.
Yeah.
Which, again, makes sense, because once you graduate, you don't have to stay a team. So the idea could be that it was that Ty left that, but Summer, Raven, and Crow stayed behind.
Yeah.
But then we've had other implications that maybe that's not the case. But then he seems to not know anything. Then we also get, say, if you watch, you actually haven't seen this, I don't think, but in Ice Queendom, at least at the very least, a little bit. It's not too much of a spoiler.
Yeah.
But in the first episode, I think, where they recreate episode 1.
Yes.
Of RWBY, they actually add Ty into episode 1.
Ah.
So the idea is you actually see Ty take RWBY with RWBY to see Ozpin.
Right.
And you see Ty have a little bit of a talk with Ozpin, but it's nothing serious. It's nothing. But again, it's also one of those things that doesn't make sense, because Ozpin would know who RWBY is.
Yes.
Would know she has silver eyes, but yet
obviously
reacts as if he has no idea who he is, who he or she is in episode 1. So it's this whole web of lies that Ozpin has seeded and created and stuff, where he acts like he knows nothing, but he knows everything, because obviously he would know who RWBY is.
Yeah, he would.
Unless it's one of those things, again, like I've seen comics of, like, Summer and Ty having a child, they realize she has silver eyes, and they realize how dangerous that is, so they kind of keep RWBY from Ozpin, or at least, kind of try to keep her away from everything, but then Ty doesn't stop RWBY from going to Mistral, or I guess he tried to, but, like, Ty's not trying to stop RWBY and Yang from being with Ozpin.
Yeah.
Although then I guess he wouldn't necessarily know how tied in they are. But again, it's this whole web of
it's a whole thing, But at least I liked how it was mentioned.
But I do love, how it was brought up.
It was brought up, sort of addressing that issue from the animatic too. So
and, like, the only thing that of importance you would assume is have to do with the relic of choice.
Yeah.
Which could still be somewhere in Vale to some degree. So maybe Ty is the caretaker of that, and that's why he's so. Maybe it's one of those things where Ty is the caretaker of the relic of choice.
Yeah.
And to be the caretaker, he has to be completely disconnected from everything. He has to have no Ozpin connection. He has to have no mention of Salem. He has to be completely distant in order to keep the relic safe. Yeah. So completely disassociate him from that.
The other thing too.
But Salem knows who Summer is, so yeah.
My other thought was when Ty found out they had died, that he may have just withdrawn completely and it's just gone off somewhere. And that's why he didn't want to do the fight anymore. He may have just given up. We heard that.
Well, I think I do think that's always been the case of Ty's always kind of just fought the good fight and kind of retired. I think he's always, especially like after Raven left.
I feel like how he would react when he heard that they both had such and such died.
Disappeared. I guess died in Atlas.
In Atlas. So after you saw the broadcast, then he may have heard from, like, because Port Nublack were coming to Vale and everything. He may have heard, of course.
Yeah. So I guess that implication being that Crow hadn't heard from Ty and just told the girls that
he's on a mission somewhere.
Whereas Crow might be trying to find Ty to tell him the good news, but they can't find him. That's also possible.
It'd be interesting too, because Raven should be able to get to him, but maybe she knows something as well. I don't know. It's really there's a few different things there. I just thought that's also possibly an option.
But I do believe the fact that they mentioned him
tells
us that the writers know what's going on, which is good. Because Ty's always been this character where it almost felt like the writers didn't know what to do with him. Like, they made this character, and it's like, oh, he's the dad of our characters, but he's connected to all these other characters, but he has no relevance to the plot. And it's like, well, how do you explain that? and
Yeah.
it felt like they've just avoided talking about Ty for so long.
Yes.
But the fact that they mentioned him here tells me that, okay, they do have an idea of what's going on with Ty, because they mentioned it.
Yeah.
Or they don't, and they're just trying to dissuade us.
Yeah. It's just interesting because we know of what happened when Summer had not returned and how he got all withdrawn. So that's
a good. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good.
So that's a possible option. Yeah.
Interpretation too.
Yeah, but then of course Yang mentions about what happened in the ever after, and I believe in this that she's referring to what happened at the end with RWBY drinking the tea, and she just wants to relay to RWBY that sorry that she felt that way and they didn't see all the signs, because quite often you do miss a lot of signs when a loved one's going through this sort of thing. It's not always obvious till later.
And again, this is coming from someone who has no worldly experience in that kind of situation. I'm very blessed in the fact that I don't have an experience like that. So again, this is my insensitivity towards these kind of subjects. And again, for me, and again, I'm a dark person in terms of my writing. I like when, things are dark. But I was saying, for people who have gone through that, you need to be vague for their sake in the writing process. So I totally get that.
And I think Yang wanted to talk about it, but she didn't want to do it as a bit of a trigger and say exactly what, but she just wanted RWBY to know, look, I understand what you went through and I don't want you to go through that again. We are here. We're going to work as a team, and not everything's going to be on your shoulders now. We're not going to let you,
That's nothing too. And this boils down to interpretation and self perspective.
Yes.
Like in someone else's perspective, you would appreciate the vagueness of that scene.
Yeah.
Totally get that. Then for me, going on a little later, so away from that topic, but on a little later, where I totally get where Yang's coming from.
Yeah.
I totally get the positive intentions of that.
Yeah.
But for me, telling someone they can never be alone.
Yeah.
Can be a little more harmful than maybe you're intending. That's just for me, who's a loner.
Yeah. And I think
me being told by a loved one I can never be alone would probably be a little more harm than good, but that's just me and my interpretation, how I function.
Well, I think
I get why Yang said that, and I get because of what RWBY went through, that would help RWBY. But to me, it was just when it was told to me, it was like,
I think too, she's coming from here, because that RWBY says that she wasn't able to ask for help, and she felt like she had to do it alone. That she couldn't ask for help from anyone. She had to do it all herself.
Yeah.
And that's where Yang's like, no, you don't have to do it yourself. We are here. We're going to do it together. And I like how, RWBY said, I just don't know how to ask for it when I have a code word. So I thought that was really cute, having the code word.
I love that. I will say, and this is just what we're discussing right now.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned, because I didn't even realise this, but you mentioned the tea thing, obviously, in episode 8. From last episode. And I love the idea of Yang planned this out. And then she thought in her head, maybe taking RWBY to drink tea might not be the best idea, and maybe that's also why she's a little more nervous than she was going to be. She's like, tea may have been a bad idea.
Maybe she should have gotten coffee instead. Well, then again,
definitely,
ice cream or something.
But I also think that's funny because Yang's not the most sensitive person.
Yeah.
And I feel like Yang can be a little ignorant at the time.
Yes.
So this is her trying, and even making a mistake like that, I feel like it's almost in character for Yang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like she's trying, and that's also why she's being so vague, because she's trying, but this isn't her expertise.
I think it was written really well, and Barb executed it really well. Yeah.
And you saw the whole Blake thing. Yang's not great at being, open. Yeah. And being she's so it makes total sense. There was one other little thing I was going to say. Oh, something I had seen. Because you talk about how RWBY mentions here that I can't ask for help, I have to be the leader.
Yes.
Kind of thing, and that all makes so much sense. It makes me really wish that in that episode 8, wish again she does the thing.
Yes.
Last volume, where if around the time before leading up to it, we get like a little audio flashback, I don't know what the right term would be.
Yeah.
Like a memory of Ozpin's speech to her in The Badge and the Burden.
Yes.
So I never thought about that scene when I was watching volume 8, 9. I never thought about that scene, but then someone shared a clip of it, blaming Ozpin, half-heartedly blaming Ozpin, and I'm like, then I'm remembering the speech Ozpin gives to RWBY in volume 1 about the burden you carry and the badge you wear honorably, and it really reinforces all the themes of volume 8, volume 9, and I'm like, damn, I wish I had that scene in closer context to this, because again, if you watch the whole show binge the whole show, there are so many themes that make Volume 9 so much more obvious and in your face and relevant.
Yes.
But I feel like if you're watching, as we did, we're hardcore fans, so we've watched the show 100 times. So that stuff we can miss, but most of that stuff we'll get and we'll go, oh, this is a reference to this, this is implied to that.
Yes.
But RWBY sometimes doesn't rely on itself as much as it should, or sometimes does too much. Because I feel like that context of that, of the badge of the burden, just hearing that again, going into Volume 9, would have contextualized Volume 9 really well.
Yeah.
Because, again, like, remembering that and watching Volume 9 now makes you appreciate what RWBY's going through even more.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
Because, again, it's like, RWBY doesn't speak about herself much, so it's hard to kind of interpret what she's going through. One, which doesn't say anything in Volume 9, obviously, but, like, I'm not saying that the Volume 9 comes out of nowhere. Obviously, she lost Penny, she's distraught, and all this other stuff is now...
everything went wrong.
Her ceiling is now crumbling on her.
Yeah, and she blames herself for it all.
Yeah, this comes from watching reactions to Volume 9 from people who aren't hardcore fans of the show, like Blind Wave, for example.
Yes.
And who don't watch the show super often, and, like, they didn't enjoy Volume 9. Like, I feel like most of the community enjoyed Volume 9...
Yeah.
As much, the best since Volume 3, to most people in the community.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting watching people who don't watch the show religiously like we do, and watch Volume 9 and maybe didn't enjoy it as much as other people did, and all their points and stuff are really valid and stuff. But I just found that so fascinating. How, again, like, sometimes you forget characters and themes and stuff, and RWBY doesn't do it perfectly all the time, where it doesn't capitalize on its own momentum, or doesn't follow through on its own momentum enough, or let some of its momentum slip going into certain scenes. So just... This episode, and then some stuff I've seen on Twitter, really helps reinforce what RWBY's going through in Volume 9, and obviously here as well. But I definitely like, like the RWBY Beyond in general. I really just love the whole package we got from this, for sure.
Definitely. Well, that was the 4 episodes of RWBY Beyond.
Indeed it was.
It was. There is also... At the moment, then we've got the RWBY 10 years later. That's also in the RWBY Beyond sort of playlist thing on the website, and the RWBY Grimm campaign as well. So definitely watch those if you can before the site goes, because once the site goes, like, everything's going to be on Crunchyroll. Really, the only way to access RWBY.
That for the most part will just be the main content. I don't believe any of the supplemental content is on Crunchyroll. I could be wrong. I don't think the World of Remnant side. I think RWBY Chibi is. And again, I'm confident that stuff will be archived by someone somewhere.
Yes.
But look, I'm not going to advocate pirating, but if the website's going to die.
Yeah.
At least for yourself, don't go re-uploading stuff everywhere necessarily.
Gosh,
no. But just is there anything you want to kind of grab? This might be a good opportunity to do it. I believe the 15th, 16th for Australia, I believe, will be the last day the site's up. Anything on YouTube, like anything, if you're a fan of all the YouTube stuff is fine. That all will stay as is.
Yeah.
Obviously won't be managed or won't be admin anymore. But, obviously YouTube stuff won't go anywhere. But obviously Rooster Teeth store, Rooster Teeth site is going away, which it's definitely sad. For sure, whether you're a RWBY fan or a greater IT fan. I think the only real thing that's still have to come out, I believe, is the RWBY final movie season they're doing. I don't know when that's coming out, but obviously soon.
No, it should be soon. Next few days, I would think.
I'm very, very excited for that. And that will be it. Which I guess, until further notice, I guess that might be it for the Corner of Remnant.
Yeah.
At least until we get more news, which again, hopefully be soon. The head of licensing did mention that there's stuff hopefully coming up soon.
Yeah.
What that entails, we don't know. But I think as much of a in the red RT was, I would like to think that RWBY still has some green left in it. Yep. And it seems that Warner Brothers is okay with them still continuing it some way or another, at least as far as they've implied to us.
Yeah.
And confirmation that no matter what they're doing, Kerry will still be at the head of it. Eddie will still be the brand archivist and still head of that, and Erin will probably still be head of art. You'd like to think.
Yes.
And hopefully they reach out to some other
Hopefully.
people to get them involved if they can. Obviously, if other people have work, then obviously so be it. But
It won't
you
be
know,
the same RWBY as
no,
before, but it
no.
sounds like
But
they are willing at least to keep some of the main.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, yeah. But if you look back, like, apart from Kerry, I don't know anyone who worked on Volume 1 that still works on Volume 9. Apart from
Yeah.
some of the more like not some of the more like unsung heroes of the show, like people that are much deeper in the pipeline that we wouldn't be familiar with in a public sense. I'm sure there are
Yes.
names in the credits of Volume 1 that still appear in the credits of Volume 9.
Yeah.
Just publicly, unless you went through and found those people, you might not be aware of them. But a lot of the animators, all the animators are different, and stuff like that. Like I love the detail that on the RT on the RWBY stream, I believe Patrick Rodriguez was there, who was the original art director before Aaron took over.
Yeah.
Who was unfortunately let go, I think, during the Volume 6-7 big RT cuts. So that was really cool seeing him there, because he has every reason to not be there, after being out, being sacked. But seeing him on that was really, really cool, and stuff. So I'm really looking. I'm lost for words at this point.
Yes. Well, hopefully we'll get some RWBY news soon, and the Corner Remnant will return.
Yes.
Once we get some more news. I still need to watch the Justice League movies and Ice Kingdom, and I don't know if we'll do a Corner Remnant for those, but if we do, we'll let everyone know.
I'd be down. I'd be happy to. So we'll just have to wait and see. So thank you everyone for who's watched Corner Remnant, whether that's the Twitch VOD, the YouTube VOD, the live stream. Thank you so much. We love just discussing RWBY with each other. We'd love anyone else and everyone to be involved with us. And maybe let's just get out some of our old favorites. Yeah. Just say,
Bad end to the grade one.
I'm just trying to remember what the like Rooster Teeth and RWBY would always ask, like why are we here? And and this is why we were here.
Yes.
Just a little bit of fandom we could bring from ourselves to you. And it's not goodbye. We don't like saying goodbye.
Nah.
It's
we'll be back.
We'll see you later.
In some form. Yes, absolutely.
We'll see you later. Yeah.
We will.
So, yeah. So until then, hope you all have a wonderful day, and until next time.
Yes.
We'll see you then.
We will. Thank you all for watching. Okay, bye.